This is Gemara Nedarim Daf Gimel Baruch Hashem, the second day of this incredible Masechta, and we're holding on Daf Gimel Amid Aleph, 3 lines from the top, V'bayis Ema. And we begin with a second explanation as to why the Mishnah wrote it in the order that it did. The Mishnah learned Kol Kinuye Nedarim Kinedarim, and then the Mishnah went on to explain Yadais. And the Gemara was very perturbed and bothered. First of all, we asked, what Yadais? Who mentioned anything about Yadais? And secondly, or firstly, whichever way you want to say it, why did the Mishnah first explain Yadais and only later on Daf Yod are we going to come back to explaining the Kinuyim, the nicknames of the Nedarim? We should have first explained the Kinuyim and only then explain the Yadais. So we had one lengthy explanation which we started off by trying to explain that whenever we have case A and then case B, we first explained B and then A, we proved that. Then we said that's not true. We left off yesterday in the top of Gimel and Aleph, in which the Gemara said, Elo lav dafka. It's lav dafka. Sometimes we go one way and sometimes we go another way. So says the Gemara Aviba Yasema, a second explanation as to why we would say Yadais first. Yadais, when it comes to Yadais, Aidi di Asir Midrasha Me'efarish Lahain Bereisha. Because it's learned out from a medrash, that's the reason why we explain it first. Says the Gemara, if that is true what you're telling me, that because it's learned out of a medrash, it comes first, says the Gemara, ask the Gemara, V'liftach hadin bereisha. So then why don't we actually say the din first? You're telling me the reason we explain Yadais first is because Yadais is learned from a medrash, and since it's learned from a medrash, we say it first. Ask the Gemara, so if that is true, the Mishnah should have started by saying Kol Yadais Nedarim, but not Kol Kinuye Nedarim. So explains the Gemara, 5 lines from the top, Miftah Pasach Kinuyim Daraisa. First we say Kinuyim, which is a din de'araisa bereisha. De'araisa comes first. And then we explain Yadais. So let's take a moment and scroll over here to the Ran, in which the Ran says that why is it that this din is a din de'araisa, so it comes first. Where does that come from? So the Ran explains, you know why? Because the Daraisa is something which is Yeduin and Pashit. It's obvious. Everyone knows scriptural dinim. So therefore, says the Ran, that's the reason why we first say Kinuyin, and then we say Yadais, which are a medrash. Asks the Gemara, 7 lines from the top, there's 2 ways of learning what a kinuy is, what a nickname, the expressive form of a neder is. Either it's lashon nachrimim, either it's the terminology of foreign languages, nachrim, words that mean similar, like we said the word carbon is koineach, koines, and koinim. So either those are translations of the word in other languages, or as we'll see in a moment, other opinion holds what's a kinoi, lashon shebadu lahem chachamim, which is going to be the terms the chachamim gave for the word. So ask the Gemara, if you hold that a kinoi is a lashon nachrim, is a foreign language, then I understand that it's a din daraisa, so it comes first. But according to the man Amar, that says that these are words which Chazal created, and the Ran over here quotes the Gemara in Daf Yud Amar Aleph, that says that if someone says this carbon, Shiyamar, carbon Chashin Shemi Yaskir, that the Ran is just giving us a little bit of a background over here. What is the reason that we are particular? And why do we want to say a kinui? So the Ran explains, the Gemara later on is going to tell us that we don't want someone to say the Shem Hashem levatala. And in order to distance someone to keeping away from the Shem Hashem, we created these other words. We created these other words that one could say in the place of the original neder. So ask the Gemara, according to the man Amar that says that what is a kinuy, word that the Chachamim created, so then asks the Gemara, my ikala meimar, what are you going to say? Now let's look at the Ran. Because we learned the Ran a moment ago that the Ran said that why should a Daraisa come first? So maybe me and you would have thought, you know why Daraisa comes first? Because it's biblical, it's the Torah. No. What did the Ran teach us, which we saw? The Ran says Daraisa comes first because it's the davar you're doing, it's known, it's pashit. Everyone knows biblical dinim. So now the Ran comes along and the Ran explains that what's the Gemara's question? Loshen Shabbadim Chachamim explains the Ran that even though it's a Daraisa, don't be mistaken and don't think that because Chazal created these words, that makes it into a non-Daraisa. Says the Ran, no. Now this is a point of contention. This is the way that the Ran learns. Says the Ran that even though it is a din daraisa, as we learned in a Mishnah, still it's not pashit. And the Ran learned the reason to say kinuyim first was because it's pashit, it's obvious, it's known. But if these are words that the Chachamim created, ask the Ran, we lose the fact that they're pashit and obvious. So ask the Ran, so why would they come first in the Mishnah? Explains the Gemara, Mika Tani Yadais. Let's remind ourselves. Yesterday, and as we started today summarizing, the Mishnah doesn't say anything about Yadais. So where do we learn Yadais in the Mishnah? We said Chasurei Mechsura V'Hachi Katani. We came along and we added Yadais into the Mishnah. So says the Gemara, does it say Yadais? No. Did we not add in the words Yadais to the Mishnah? So once we're changing the wording of the Mishnah, Aktinami Vitani Yadais, throw the words Yadais first in the Mishnah. Call Yadais Nedarim Kinedarim. Not only are we changing and adding words into the Mishnah, but we're explaining that the first words in the Mishnah are incorrect. And we just add on, that's what we'll see in Daf Yod, and that is how we're learning the Mishnah, that we're adding in Yadais, and we're adding into the beginning of the Mishnah. And obviously, why this second teretz would not hold like the first teretz, the Ran himself explains that this is not such a geshmak teretz to come that we have to be doichkin, and we're going all the way back, and we're saying that the first words in the Mishnah were messed up, because we can understand that what is a chasuri mechsera? That the Talmud, the Gemara, was transmitted orally. So it makes sense that you left out a word here, you left out a case, but to say you forgot the beginning, that's a much bigger chiddush. Therefore, we don't like to say that, and that's why this is an Iba Yisema, a second teretz. Says the Gemara, v'yadais heicha ksiv. What is the source for the din of Yadis? Explains the Gemara, Ishki Yafli Lindar Nader Nazir Lahazir Lashem. Says in the Pasuk, and a person who is Yafli, person who opens up and eats from the word of Pella to make a Neder to Hashem and to be a Nazir to Hashem. So the Pasuk, as we could for a moment zoom in over here on the Pasuk says, Daber el B'nei. Nope. You can't see the pasuk. Let's get that pasuk nice and big. Wait for it. There it is. Pasuk says, "Dabra b'nei Yisrael v'amarta alehem ish ki oy isha ki yafli lindar neder nazir lahazir lashem." Lindar neder, to create a neder, nazir lahazir, to create a nazir to Hashem. So we have to see what exactly this double wording is coming to teach us. So says the Gemara, let's explain what this pasuk is coming to teach us. Nazir lahazir, when the pasuk says Nazir, Utanya, we learned in our Brisa. We're quoting a Brisa now. We're about 20 lines at the bottom. The first word on the line is Nazir lahazir, says kinuyin nazirs kinazirs. The terminology of Nazir lahazir, that wording teaches us that you're creating a kinoi, the terms, the similar, the nicknames of the Nazirs are like Nazirs. Yadais Nazirais kinazirs. And we learn two dinim. And the yadais, the handles, the part of Naziris is like Naziris. Ainli elav bin Naziris, bin Nedarim minayin. How do we know this din applies to Nedarim as well? Talmud loymar ish ki yafli lindar neder nazir lazir Hashem. So the pasuk puts the two together. So from the fact that the pasuk puts nazir together with neder, and the double wording of nazir lahazir teaches me that both the kinuyim and the yadais of naziros are like naziros, and then we put nedarim next to that, makish naziros the nedarim. We equate the two to each other. Unedarim l'naziris, and we create it back. We have a hekish that flows both ways. Ma naziris asvayadas naziris k'naziros. Just like you just explained that nazir lahazir teaches me that the yad, the handle, the partial term of the naziris is the same thing of naziris of nedarim. Asvayim yadas nedarim k'nedarim. And now it flows back the other way. Just like by a neder, there's a din, and we're going to explain this in a moment. That you over and bal yachal, that you could profane your words if you don't keep your neder. Ubal ta'acher, and you're also over if you make a neder, if you don't fulfill the neder within a certain requisite time period, 3 regalim as we've learned. You're over av naziras over bebal yachal ubal ta'acher. It goes both ways. Now that's really the pasuk that we're looking for to teach us the din of Yadais and Kinuyim by Nedarim and Naziros. But once we're there, we continue the Bryce that says, Uman Nedarim, just like by Nedarim, you have a din of Af Mefer Nidrei Bitai. A father, we learned this extensively in Ksubis, that a father could annul the Nedarim of his daughter, Ubal Mefer Nidrei Ishtoi, and a husband could annul the Nedarim of his wife. And that is the hekish that goes back and forth. So how do we know there's a din of yadis and there's a din of kinuyim? The pasuk is nazir lahazir. And then next to that pasuk it says lindar neder. So from nazir lahazir we learn out there's a din of yadais and kinuyim by nazirois. The fact the pasuk puts together nindar neder with the nazir lahazir teaches me the same are by nedarim. Asks the Gemara, 1 second. What's the reason? I don't understand. By Naziris, it says this double terminology of Nazir Lahazir. You are a Nazir to abstain from wine, etc. Nidarim Namir Lindar Neder. By Nidarim, it says the same double wording. So, whatever reason that double wording, by Naziris has the ability to teach you. Number 1. There's a din of kinuyim by Naziris. Number 2, there's a din of yadais by Naziris. We have the same double wording by Nidarim. V'hakish alamali. So why do you have to come on to hakish? You just told me of the double wording by Naziris. And then the Torah puts neder next door to Naziris, so the hakish allows them to flow back and forth. Why do you need the hakish? You have the same double wording by neder. Explains the Gemara 10 lines to the bottom. First word in line is li kasim neder lindar kidikasav. If the pasuk said the word neder lindar, which would have been the same thing as nazir lehazir, kidikasav nazir lehazir, then you're right, kidika amrit, that you are a nazir lehazir, which is the verb. There is a neder lindar to create the neder. Then the two are exactly the same, and then you're right. You wouldn't need the hekish. Lo tzricha hekesha. But a hasha dechsev, not that way. Lindar neder, it doesn't say neder lindar. That there is a neder lindar to put in the verb of the neder, the active word. No, it says lindar neder, so those words are not as limud prone. And rather, Dibratayra Kalashan B'nei Adam, the words of Lindar Neder are not as powerful, we'll call it as Nazir Lahazir. Nazir Lahazir are double words that teach us a lesson. There is a Nazir Lahazir to create into Naziris. That teaches us the words of Nikinuyim. That teaches us Yadais. But by Neder, it doesn't say Neder Lindar, which would be the same. It says Lindar, Neder. So why did it say that? Just because the Torah talks the way people talk, that people double up their words. Ask the Gemara 5 lines to the bottom. This is a famous machlokes. There is a mandarma that agrees. Yes, there are times that's the way the Torah talks. Elaman, the less they differ take Lashem Ne Adam, Highlander Nedemai of it, according to the man, the Amar holds that Torah doesn't write that way. So what do we need a double wording for? Explains the Gemara, Darish Le, Lasais Yadis Nedarim, Kinedarim. You know, we needed for to darshin that the Yadas are like the Nedarim, or Magnazir is the Nedarim. Now it's going the other way. So now you have the double wording. And therefore, from the double nidar, lindar neder, we learn about nidarim, and then we put the hekish back to niziros. Now, if we're learning this way, it comes out that nazir lahazir is really extra, and that's being learned out from lindar neder. Asks the Gemara, nazir lahazir darishle. The term Nazir Lahazir, we could learn that what? Melamid, what does it teach us? Because now the words are extra. Because if Lindar Neder are teaching me Yados and Kinuyim, and Nazir Lahazir is makish to that, so what do you do the extra? Nazir Lahazir, as we turn over here to Gimel Amid Beis, explains the Gemara, you know, we use it for Shanaziros, a new din. Neziros Chal al Neziros. A new din we learn out from the double wording of Nazir Lahazir that the Naziris can be chal on a Naziris. What does that mean? The Rana explains. For example, if someone says, today I'm going to be a Nazir, and then he says again, I'm going to be a Nazir. Harini Nazir ayam, harini Nazir ayam. So stam, when you say I'm going to be a Nazir, that's a 30-day Nazir period. But so if you said it twice, we do not say that you suffice with 30 days. Rather, by saying it twice, you create 60 days. Shanaziros chal al naziros, that one could fall and take effect on top of another. Ask the Gemara 1 second, give them base the top line. According to the other man, that he learned why did the Torah say lindar neder, because that's normal. V'nazir lahazir, Darish lasais yadas naziros kinaziros, and then the other end of the pasuk of nazir lahazir teaches me the din about kinuyim, teaches me the din about yadais. Ask the Gemara, Shanaziris Chal Naziris Minale. So where do we know this din of Naziris Chal Naziris? Because we don't have the extra pasuk. And the Gemara explains further. As we're going to see, there's a Manda Amar that says that in reality it's not true. Naziris is not Chal Naziris. If you say Arini Nazir Ayoim, it's one time Nazir. Then everything is good. Because then you don't need an extra limud because they don't hold of this limud. Explains the Gemara and answers. Neymar Kra Lizar. We didn't need the hay. My lahazir shmas minot tarti. And the Ran very interestingly points out over here that don't think that the hay actually teaches you a din. Because as many times says the Ran that the hay is swallowed up like nadud and lahanid, lishmid, lahashmid. But says the Ran that it could, the fact that it didn't have to say the hay because it could have said nazir and the same were like nedarim. So lahazir, that by nazir there's an extra hay, now we could darshan it. And we conclude this part of the Gemara, says the Gemara b'marava amri is tana demapik the others min lindar neder, v'istana demapik le a new source min, and the gerus over here is kichol hayoytze mipiv yaseh. So there's an extra pasuk according to darshan it up, says Eretz Yisrael b'marava. Omar mar, says the Gemara, okay, we tied up all loose ends. We know lindar neder. We know nazir lahazir. We know whether the double language, whether it's a hekish, whether we learn out one from the other. We know there's kinuyim. We know there's nadois by both of them. Says the Gemara. Let's go back into that brayso you quoted on the bottom of Amid Aleph. Says the Gemara. Amar mar umani darim oiver bebal ta'acher. What do the braysos say that by nidarim there's a concept of bal yachel? Ubal ta'acher, says Marapos. Bishlam, I understand Bal Yachel and Nedarim Mishkach. So what's Bal Yachel going, for example? Damar Kikar, Zu Aichel, V'loy Achla. You say this Kikar, this loaf of bread I'm going to eat, and he didn't eat it. So you're a Bal Yachel, you profaned your words, you didn't listen to your own words. V'loy Achla, Mishal Bal Yachel, Devarai, that you profaned and you messed up your words. But says the Gemara, Bal Yachel the Nazir Zeichem Mishkach. So what is the case of Bal Yachel of Naziris? Bal Yachel literally means not to desecrate your words. But by Naziris, what does that mean? Explains the Gemara. Kivan de Amar Areini Nazir, Havale Nazir. Once you say, I am a Nazir, you're a Nazir. Now there are dinim of a Nazir. Achal, if you ate that which you are not allowed to eat, then kamlei bibal yoichal. Then you're over on the pasuk that says, do not eat those grapes. Shasa, you drink the wine, kamlei bibal yishte. But I asked the Gemara, there's no bal yachel on the Naziros. There's no way that you desecrated the word Naziros. The Naziros is what it is. The Naziros is automatic. When it came that you said that this loaf of bread I will eat, and you do not eat it, bal yachel devara. You made a neder to do something and you didn't. But if you said, I'm going to be a Nazir, and you did things you're not allowed to do, you transgress of the laws of Naziris. But there's not a desecration in the Naziris itself. Amar Rava explains Rava, and the Ran over here explains why we didn't want to say this originally. Laver alav bishnayim. You're over in two isurim. You're over in two isurim, excuse me. You're over in two isurim. Number one, you're over in Bal Yochel, you shouldn't have eaten. And number two, it's called Bal Yachel the Naziris. Now the Gemara asks further, Bal Ta'achar the Naziris Eichem Mishkachas law. The term Bal Ta'achar does not apply by Naziris. Bal Ta'achar is, you said, I'm going to bring a carbon, and then you didn't bring it in 3 regalim. But what does that have to do with Naziris? Kivan Damar Ini Nazir Havalei Nazir. The first moment that you said that you're going to be a Nazir, you are a Nazir. So, and if you ate, Kimle Bal Yoichel, you're a Bal Yoichel. So when you over on Bal Ta'acher, that you delayed in your carbon, or you delayed in the Nazirus, explains the Gemara 3 lines on the white lines, if he says, when I want, I will be a Nazir. So the Gemara thinks right now, and we think right now, so maybe that's the entity, and if you delay and you don't become a Nazir, Yoiver and Bal Ta'acher, that by delaying, but says the Gemara can't be. V'amar Ksheretza like Bal Ta'acher. There's no entity of Bal Ta'acher, because what do the words L'Ksheretza mean? Whenever I want. So you can't tell me there's a time period when to want, because you said whenever I want. So Amar Rava, with this we conclude, Ki going to Amar lo yifter min ha'olam ad she'yehi Nazir. The person says, I'm not going to leave this world until I become a Nazir. From that moment, Havalei Nazir. From that moment that he says that, he automatically becomes a Nazir with regard that he's going to be over on Bal Te'acher. Similar, so it says, my get is to my wife 1 moment before I die. Right away, she cannot eat chuma. Right away, we consider her a divorcee. And we say, any moment he could die. And this might be the moment before he dies. Therefore, she cannot eat chuma right now. Right now, he becomes a Nazir. Because we say, maybe he'll die any moment. And therefore, he's going to be over on Bal Ta'acher immediately. So the Gemara is explaining the Bal Ta'acher of Naziris is in this unique case, that when someone says, Loi eftar min ha'olam, I should not leave this world without becoming a Nazir, from that moment, the Bal Ta'acher of Nazirus kicks in. He's not really a Nazir, the Ran speaks out, because it's not after Min Ha'olam, but he's over in the Bal Ta'acher. And we'll pick it up from Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, who gives another explanation of how he can be over Bal Ta'acher, Nazirus, and Daf Daled, and the next year, B'siyata Dishmaya.